Now is the part where I talk and you Google the score. We have a marketing problem. I know what you're thinking, and we're not talking about that, Israel, yet. We have a branding issue that has eclipsed the integrity of perspective with our faith. Judaism is not ancient. It is certainly not a relic of ancient past. And before you think I've lost it, consider, is the ocean ancient? It holds ancient treasure and stories, but the ocean's alive, living and breathing isn't ancient. Something truly ancient lived and died in the past. Judaism isn't ancient because we continuously infuse it with new life. Now, while some wisdom is ancient, so we build upon it. We've evolved. We no longer sacrifice pigeons for good luck or rely on all showing up to the same centralized temple in the Middle East. The rabbis bravely, completely recraft it with rabbinic Judaism to help our faith survive the temple's destruction and our ultimate setting forth into diaspora. Our Judaism today grows and changes with us. It stands on the foundations laid by our ancestors, but we are not tied to 2,000 years ago wisdom alone. Judaism ensures that we breathe life into it, building upon what became before it. Judaism isn't a relic. It's a deeply rooted tree that still flourishes and blossoms. Ancient implies interest only in history, but that's not our tradition. We study the history to know its potential, to respect its roots, but Judaism is alive. Throughout our tradition, even when reading the ancient words of Torah, the rabbis warn us against seeing it as ancient. We breathe life into Torah. As readers, we renew the words in our lives. The reader changes. The words remain the same. We are the co-creators in our tradition because we control how we engage the sacred words. Let us be the co-creators of our living story. The book that we repeat over and over again, 79,000 words. How long is that? It's the length of the first Harry Potter book. No, I'm not talking the Order of the Phoenix or some other crazy long book. I'm talking Sorcerer's Stone, the first one, the one that we're like, this is manageable. Could you imagine breaking the first Harry Potter book into 50 some odd chapters and reading it weekly over and over and over and over again? Why would you do that? Why would you waste our readers' precious time with words that don't change? By the third, fourth, fifth iteration, you'd know everything there was to know about it. The reason is that our text is only half written. We write in the rest each year, each breath, each experience. Unlike a static story, the Torah offers new insight with each reading because the reader brings their evolving experience to it. Our tradition empowers the reader as co-creator. And when we study that Torah, we breathe life in. The text doesn't give more details than needed. It offers only what we seek. And yet today, we often let our Judaism be reduced to sound bites and cliches, into what we think someone else wants us to know, into what Google tells us Judaism says. Let us be the co-creators of this living story. Think about Harry Potter again. Would you all have imagined that Harry Potter looked different if the cover hadn't ruined it? Do you think Daniel Radcliffe would have had the job if the cover didn't have a Daniel Radcliffe lookalike right there the first time you saw it? Even a mere book cover took away part of the authentic experience of co-creating the story. We see our tradition go through this during the time of Enlightenment, a crucial first step in the creation and flourishment of what would later be liberal Judaism. And quite honestly, this gives a different understanding to the warnings against idolatry as well. If someone predetermines your interpretation of God, they so deeply rob you of the experience of interpreting the divine. We all have the ability to reflect on what we think the divine resonates as. If we gave a visual to God, we would take so much of this collaboration away from the potential and more. So Eugene Borowitz, who's a leading figure during this liberal Jewish thought, says during the time of Enlightenment, the same freedom that to give up their Jewishness also made it possible for Jews to choose consciously to be Jewish. Being Jewish now became a matter of personal decision about how one wants to live their life. What began as a fact of birth becomes an act of existential self-determination. To really understand the power and embrace our role as co-creator, I want to tell you a story about a little boy named Kane Monroe from East Los Angeles. At 9 years old, Kane spent his summer vacation building an elaborate arcade out of cardboard boxes, all in his father's auto body shop. He used imagination and ingenuity. He crafted games. He had prize systems, even a designed security feature with like calculators and all kinds of things just in case of vandalism. And despite having no customers, Kane showed up every day with enthusiasm. And in October of 21, a filmmaker, Nirvan Mullick, discovered Kane's arcade and became his first customer. Moved by his creativity, he organized a surprise flash mob to visit the arcade and document the experience. His film went viral, inspiring a global movement of Kane's arcade, creating from boxes. You go down to our school, and in room 12, there is a closet with a bungee cord and more cardboard than you know what to do with. Kane's story led to the creation of the Imagination Foundation, promoting creativity in children worldwide, and sparked the initiative of Global Cardboard Challenge. His story exemplifies how each of us holds the potential to be the co-creator in our own lives and communities. Just as Kane infused ordinary materials with new life, we must too breathe the vitality into our tradition. Our heritage cannot simply reside in ancient words and historical recollection. It must be living, a dynamic force that we engage with. Kane didn't wait for others to provide entertainment or purpose. He actively created it for himself. Our faith, much like Kane's brilliant arcade, is not a static relic of the past, but a living tradition that flourishes when we engage with it wholeheartedly. We are not mere spectators. We are active participants, shaping our experience and understanding Judaism with every choice we make. Let us be the co-creators of our living Jewish story. And the rabbis contemplate the essence of this idea with the wordplay of Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim shel lamala, the Jerusalem of above. Yerushalayim shel lamata, the Jerusalem of below. The Jerusalem above represents our aspirations, our hopes, our dreams, our ideals, our holiness, our unity that we can hold in our hearts. It's the vision of Jerusalem, and by extension, our faith can be at its highest potential. And below is the physical city, its stones worn by time, its streets filled with the footsteps of people from all walks of life, embodying the complexities and challenges of reality. Famous poet Yehuda Amichai captures this beautifully in his poem, The Tourist. Once I sat on the steps by the gate of David's tower. I placed my 2 heavy baskets at my side. A group of tourists were standing around, and their guide and I became their target marker. You see that man with the baskets? Just right over his head, there's an arch from the Roman period. Just right over his head. But he's moving, they said. And I say to myself, redemption will come only if the guide tells them, you see that arch from the Roman period? It's not important. But next to it, left down a bit, there sits a man who bought fruit and vegetables to feed his family. This poem poignantly illustrates how we often fixate on the ancient, missing the living people who embody the spirit of the land today. The tourists are so focused on capturing perfect images of these arches, they overlook the man, the life that's right in front of them to learn from. Amichai reminds us that true redemption, true understanding, comes when we recognize and value the present over the historical. Amichai reminds us the true essence of Jerusalem, and by extension our faith, is found not just in the ancient stones, but in the lives of those who inhabit it today, the spirit of Am Yisrael, the people, the innovation, the culture, the daily realities that make Israel vibrant today. This moment is pivotal in our society. Our relationship with Israel is constant. It evolves and grows and deepens. And as this happens, as it thrives and lives, we have to keep our bearings with it. This is not just a repetition of old stories. This is a new story. This moment in time that so many of us find ourselves in, yearning for the safety of our homeland, worried about what's going on around the world. This is a new story. For the first time in 2,000 years, we have a sovereign homeland. We speak Hebrew not just in prayer, but in everyday conversations. We have a place where Jewish culture, law, and life is organically interwoven into the fabric of society. And as diasporic Jews, we have not had this experience before. Having something as precious as a homeland to cherish and protect, a piece of our heart physically and firmly set in a place even as we continue to live out our lives in the diaspora. We have not had this experience in time. We have not watched footage of violence and horror that in other contexts would have been universally condemned, only to see the horror of justification without pause. This is a new chapter in our story, one that is being written as we speak. Do not relinquish your authority in writing that chapter. You are the co-creator. We all add our voices to the narrative. We must find our voice and cultivate our relationship with our homeland, recognizing that we have a role in bringing Yerushalayim shel Lamala to Lamata. This means not only celebrating the spiritual and historical significance, but also actively participating in its present and future. We contribute to a vibrant, dynamic Israel that reflects the values we hold dear. We are part of a relationship that is so powerfully connecting us across this world. We are the ones who breathe life into this tradition. Let us be the co-creators, the co-authors of this living story. We find ourselves at a pivotal moment in society where Israel is increasingly misunderstood and often unjustly vilified. Not always, but I want to make clear, misunderstood and at times unjustly judged. The complexities of the reality are frequently overshadowed by the oversimplification of narratives. Yet Israel is not just a distant land or an abstract concept. It's a vibrant, living nation, a breathing, heart-pounding love with beats. It's a place where ancient history meets modern innovation, where our story of ancient intertwines with the lives of today. We must find our voice in our relationship with our homeland, embracing responsibility that comes with it, even if it's more than we asked for. And I know for so many of you, it is more than you asked for in this last year. By actively engaging, by bearing your heart, by allowing those to know that you love and support and care. It is not just a relic, it's an integral part of our living tradition. And just as we are co-creators in our faith, we are also co-creators in Israel's ongoing story. This is not a chapter we can afford to skip or leave unwritten. In our thousands of years, we've not had this part of the experience. So let us embrace the new story, adding our voices to the narrative. Together, we can confront the misunderstandings, illuminate the multifaceted realities of a complex state, and reinforce that Judaism is alive and dynamic and profoundly relevant. When we shy away from our potential, forget our sacred relationship with the divine, we begin to lean backwards, focusing on what was and neglecting to be nimble and malleable and accessible in modern moments. Let us rid ourselves of viewing Judaism as a source of guilt. We don't need guilt or shame to connect us. Throw away that ridiculous cliche that we somehow hold on to with pride of, Jewish guilt. Take a breath and hear me again. Judaism is not a weight on your shoulders. To believe that is to dismiss the strength and power of 3,000 years of vibrant living. Judaism is a foundation, a platform, a lens, a container, a mechanism to see and experience this world. We have to pay that respect to our tradition, knowing that we are experiencing life through Judaism and that doing that keeps it breathing. You don't need to be guilted or shamed into this truth. It's far too incredible to be reduced to that relationship. It's a collective celebration that we are all tethered together with. And remember, that journey isn't meant to be walked alone. We are a community, a collective Yisrael, and together we can support and uplift one another. Engage in our communal worship, participate in our traditions, share your experiences with others. And by doing that, we strengthen our individual faith and fortify the bonds that hold us together as a people. We are the vibrancy of our Jewish tradition. And if you don't know how to contribute to that, we're here for you. But you have to then be ready to be the co-creator. You have to be ready to keep the light of our tradition shining brightly. It's on this night that we believe that God opens the book of life and inscribes our name. But what if that too is our opportunity to be the co-creator? That we also author this book of life. We don't just let things happen to us. We always take the creative, explorative, discoverable lens to inscribe our name in a book well lived. As we stand at this pivotal moment, let us embrace Judaism not as a relic of the past, but as a living, breathing tradition that thrives through our active participation. We are the co-creators, empowered to infuse our heritage with a vitality and a relevance by engaging wholeheartedly, by bringing our unique voices and energies. We ensure that our faith remains vibrant and meaningful in this world. I invite each of you to step into that role with courage and creativity. Together, let us write the next chapter of our living Jewish story.